Yeah. Look at the heartache.
What's that?
Look at the heartache I have to deal with.
Hey, team. Keep your phone up and then I'll text you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That was
It was going.
It was going up. It was going up.
It's like we've noticed that taking out stuff they've already put in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like really highly sustained online from South Carolina.
Yeah.
That seems to touch on this
I know, that's where it's limited. Privacy and also the other conditions.
I remember that.
Do not possess or control any firearms.
It's firearms right there.
Is it? Oh, it's already in the standard.
Order.
All rise. Superior Court for the State of Washington is now in session. Commissioner Nathan Corey Craig presiding.
Please be seated. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Mr. O'Connor, who do you have there?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Lee Roberts, seated to my right in custody.
Okay. Are you Eric Lee Roberts?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Is your date of birth May 7th, 1966?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you watch the video regarding your constitutional rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
For today's hearing, the focus for this court is on your right to remain silent, your right to have counsel represent you, to have counsel appointed to represent you at public expense if you qualify. In reviewing your screening form, the court finds that you do qualify for court-appointed counsel. For today's hearing, that'll be Mr. O'Connor, seated to your left. It's my understanding that there is a request for media. I'm going to ask that phones be turned on silent, please. So before we get into probable cause, with the media, please identify themselves, and then I'll hear from Mr. O'Connor.
Your Honor, for the record, Keith Eldridge with Como TV, the representatives from all the other networks in Seattle and the Olympian are here, as well as Shelton. And it's our understanding with General Rule 60, counsel, but it's understanding from General Rule 16 that courtrooms are presumed to be open to the public unless there are overwhelming circumstances. We don't see those in this case, and so we ask that we be allowed to videotape the defendant.
Okay. Thank you. Other members?
Jeff Chu, iFiber 1 News.
Okay.
Dee Sun, Cairo 7 News.
Sarah Gensler, the Olympia.
Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
Colby Murdoch, Q13.
Kenny Quahar, Cairo 7.
Jared Wenzelberger, The Chronicle.
Natalie Johnson, The Chronicle. I think we're the only ones taking still.
Okay. And you wish to take photographs of the proceeding?
Would love to, thank you.
Okay.
I also wish to take a photo of the proceeding.
Okay. Mr. O'Connor, do you have any objection?
I do, Your Honor. I normally object to media coverage pre-trial. Obviously, any defendant is presumed to be innocent. Publication of custody status runs the risk of diminishing that presumption, so I object.
Okay. Does anybody wish to be heard on this issue?
Your Honor, we have no objection. This case has had a significant, at least social media coverage in the past, and at this point, I appreciate Mr. Connor's suggestion that today's media presence does not really, the cat is already out of the bag on this as far as social media. We have no objection to the media filming or being present.
So certainly the court recognizes there's the heightened circumstances regarding the open court, not hearing a compelling reason why the court would not allow the media in the courtroom. Certainly the voir dire process, et cetera, are available to ferret out any potential concerns for a impartial jury, et cetera, at trial. The court will allow that to move forward, so we'll allow the media to record the proceedings. So moving forward, Mr. O'Connor, anything you wish to say regarding probable cause?
No, Your Honor. We'll reserve any comment of probable cause for a later hearing.
Court will find probable cause for the alleged crime of murder in the second degree. Mr. Lippert, are you handling this?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, the state is requesting in this that Mr. Roberts be held on $2 million cash or bond bail. This is a homicide case which has been outstanding or has been open for 10 years, as you read in the statement supporting probable cause. While Mr. Roberts did in fact contact law enforcement on his own and make incriminating statements to them, he later then recanted those statements. Mr. Roberts does have assets, including the home which he owns, which is where the situs of the investigation at this time that the Thurston County Sheriff's Office is conducting. We believe that Mr. Roberts, having recanted his statements and now potentially facing charges on this matter, he is a significant flight risk. And also, Your Honor, he has some history of failures to appear. Recently he has an open warrant out of Snohomish County, out of the municipality there. He has in his history at least one domestic violence incident that was dismissed in Thurston County, and there have been other assaults as well. We believe that the high bail in this matter will assure his presentation to in court for further proceedings and is in the interest of community safety. So we would ask for that. We would also ask, Your Honor, that in this instance, when police investigator were during the investigation pursuant to the search warrant on Mr. Roberts' home, they found a number of firearms at his home. As is reflected in the pretrial services report, Mr. Roberts has a history of mental health treatment and has a history of substance abuse. We believe that it is in the interests of community safety that Your Honor direct Mr. Roberts to surrender those weapons. I would inform the court that the Thurston County Sheriff's Office has taken custody of the firearms that were present in the home for safekeeping as part of their investigation. Mr. Roberts, obviously there's no one at the home. He lives by himself and there's no one else there to protect those or to look over those firearms. So we believe in this case, Your Honor, given his history, that a firearms surrender order is appropriate, and we would ask that you issue that. We would also ask, Your Honor, that you direct Mr. Roberts not to, please go ahead, not to return to the scene of the crime that is being investigated at 16546 Sheldon Lane, Rochester, Washington, 98579. I recognize, Your Honor, that that is his home. However, there is an indication that there's an ongoing investigation at that residence, and it is inappropriate for him to return to that residence while the investigation is ongoing, should he post the bail that we have requested. We would also ask, Your Honor, for standard conditions, which include not possessing or owning a firearm, and I believe that kind of supports the state's request for a surrender order in this case. While Mr. O'Connor has not, in this case, raised any issues regarding probable cause, the state is establishing probable cause for second-degree murder in this case, but we're reserving our right to a final decision on charges until at least Monday to allow the investigation that is currently ongoing by Thurston County Sheriff's Office at Mr. Roberts' residence and elsewhere to continue. So that would be our position and our request for today, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connor?
Thank you, Your Honor. As Mr. Roberts presents himself today, he has some limited criminal history, Your Honor. I appreciate the state's recommendation. As to bail, I disagree with the amount. I think it's warranted under the rules of the court consider a money bail amount for the nature of this allegation, but obviously it's just that at this point. It's an allegation. He's presumed to be innocent. He does have significant ties to the community, as the state indicated. He is a homeowner, property owner. He has a lot of family here in this community. I don't think he poses a significant flight risk. I think the stronger argument for the court to consider is whether or not he's likely to commit a violent offense, and of course the court can look at his history and the current allegation. And I'd appreciate if the court, should the state consider additional charges or changing charges, that be noted for another preliminary hearing where the court can find probable cause as opposed to an amended information with greater charges. I think it's more appropriate for the court to establish probable cause if that's the case. Your Honor, as I indicated, he is a property owner, so should he post any amount that the courts require him to post, I think it's reasonable for him to return home. I don't know when that will happen. Obviously, it's going to depend on the amount that the court considers imposing. The court obviously has to consider its financial resources in imposing any amount that's reasonably likely to secure his appearance at a future court date. The court has his financial affidavit in front of it. I do not. I have not reviewed that to his source of income. I don't believe he's employed, and I don't know if he has any source of income or ability to post a money bail. So ask the court obviously to follow the court rules and consider his income in imposing any money amount. Yeah, and he's, you know, if he's able to post bail, I think he should be allowed to return home. I don't know when the sheriffs are going to conclude their investigation, but that really shouldn't impede his ability to return home. If he does post bail and attempts to return home and this investigation is still ongoing, I don't know how we could advise him on what to do in that scenario. Nothing further at this time.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, just that Mr. O'Connor's comment just reminded me that the state would also ask that if Mr. whatever bail you set, if any, that if he does post bail, that he return to court for additional conditions before release, which is one of our standard check block on our 3-2 order that can be imposed, and it's specifically appropriate in this kind of case.
I'd object to that, Your Honor. I think whatever additional conditions we want to address, we can address them now. And I don't know what else there would be to address that we couldn't address right now.
So I'm going to check that box because I think the issue that needs to be addressed has to do with the residents. And the reason why I would prefer to do that is because, as Mr. O'Connor pointed out, there's no idea how long the investigation may take regarding the sheriff's office. And so in order to determine where he'll be residing in the event that he is released, that issue needs to be addressed by the court. So hopefully there would be additional information. So that's why this court would order that if posted, he will be to return to court for additional conditions. The court is going to impose bail after considering all the factors under Criminal Rule 3.2, including the financial circumstances of Mr. Roberts. The court is going to impose bail in the amount of $1.5 million, cash or bond. The court will sign an order to surrender weapons with a review hearing date of next Friday, July 19th at 8:30 a.m. In the event that Mr. Roberts provides proof of compliance prior to that hearing can be struck. As previously indicated, the court We'll have the box checked for him to return for conditions if he posts bail. That way the court can address the resident's issue with him at that time. And then he is to return to court on July 23rd for arraignment. Is that where we're at on that
Yes,
calendar?
so the cheat sheet is July 23rd. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Counsel?
No, Your Honor, just if the charges are changing, I'd ask that we set another probable cause hearing so the court can establish additional probable cause.
Understood. All right, thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Abid will be handling the remainder of the matters on the calendar.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor? May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today, sir.